There you
Oh,
want
thank you.
So I guess
Yeah.
So I got all kinds of questions now.
Yeah,
okay.
So yeah, let's just.
Sure.
Did you see that? Oh, have you've seen it before? Yeah. It's okay.
Based on that, it's a thing that tells people mature sizes of or sizes of plants.
That's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. What else does it do?
Well, I'm not sure how, and I didn't.
I hit plant list. There was a list of 20 species there, maybe, or something like that.
So
Yeah.
prior to that screen, at least where I was here for my senior project, there's a climate map where you.
I saw that. Yeah, as well.
So you choose one of the climates. I only had 3 for just kind of proof of concept that it could be done.
Yeah.
So that'll load a whole new scene and let you know that certain plants won't work in the area. So I guess it is still related to what you're saying, but it's not just about the height.
Sunset Magazine, for instance,
Yeah.
has an app where you put in your climate zone, and then it's
Right.
got a ton of species.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
tells
yeah.
you what's in and out of that climate zone, that kind of thing.
Right.
We have them as a key partner
Okay.
to take their information and implement it.
So your database comes from Sunset Magazine, the climate zones.
We're hoping. Oh, well, actually, so far, yeah, it's been modeled on the Sunset climate zones, which is just like publicly accessible data. I mean, as of now, we're not using anything that's like super data intensive for
Okay.
that, but we're hoping to. Like, if we can have this expanded database, then it'll make this a lot more rapid of a process
Mhm.
to like expand our library.
But I think that's really, as you pointed out, there's lots of, I think there are apps out there that will tell you the individual thing. It's this ability to group and then show the temporal change through the seasons. I think that's where the uniqueness could come, to be able to corner a segment of the market and really.
What do you mean by grouping?
That, okay, so when I come and talk to a client and I talk to them about how I've designed their planting design, I would like to be able to show, well, I've used the Amelanker as a focal point, and then I've used Arrowwood viburnum to transition down into junipers and into a minor focal point with some Bonica roses, for example. So
Okay.
now I've got this really nice combination of white flowers, first thing in the spring off the Amelanker, then I've got white flowers coming on the Arrowwood viburnums, but I've got a good foundation of evergreen with the junipers, and then I pick up with the roses in the summer, so now I've got a pink color in the summer. Late summer, I've got a purple fruit color against the dark red from the Amelanker, and then I've got the fall colors changing coming through there.
And this is all
And that's
really going right by my head, but if you could show me this as you were telling me,
There you go.
then I'd be really hanging on
yeah.
to what you say and
Well-
really gaining knowledge from it, that I can choose to make decisions
Exactly.
about the landscape.
And I would be spending way more time selling you that I've made the right plant selection for you. in
So
terms
this
of
is
why
a
it's
way
just-
not to make drawings? Is that what?
No, you would still make your drawing, but then you'd be able to, clients don't understand drawings.
Uh-huh.
So it's all about how well you can paint the picture and talk to them. What story are you creating?
Uh-huh.
The Amelanker is the very first thing to bloom in the spring, so you're gonna know springtime is here when the flowers come out. The birds love the fruit, and then it's got the most brilliant fall color. And then in the wintertime, when there are no leaves, you have this great branching structure and bark color.
Mhm.
And then you have to walk them through every season and tell them how you understand the temporal change to this, that you've made their landscape interesting. It's Wisconsin, so we have 6 months of nice weather. So that 6 months has got to count. And then you have to make sure that you tell them what this looks like in the winter.
I have a question. When you're
So-
going through this walkthrough with your clients,
Yeah.
are you physically at the site where you were planting this? or
No,
are you
we're
usually in a room?
we're in their dining room,
Yeah.
and I've got a scaled drawing, and I'm showing them what I've done here, and it's more, they're not looking at the drawing. They're listening to what I'm saying, how well I communicate the design features, space definition, and how then I use the plant material to achieve that goal.
The reason I ask that is because this seems like a way to stand in your garden and see how things are changing. What you're describing is a situation where you're sitting in a room describing how things will change over time. And there must be some way that you guys are trying to incorporate those two.
Yeah.
You could be
So,
there.
here, let me show you how this is. Here's the front foundation, because we're talking from a residential scale right now. So here's the front foundation of your house. Hit the button, and then here, look at what this looks like in the spring.
yeah.
And now you're going to see how this is transitioning to summer. Here are the fall aspects, and now this is what it's going to look like in the winter time.
But if that was the case, then you'd have to be having that meeting outdoors.
No.
Well, you would have
We should be having
see,
it in the winter
that's
time,
another
too.
one.
They're working on a feature to make that happen.
That's another
So-
ding though too though, is that like, we haven't been, no, I mean,
No,
it's,
this is exactly.
That's the feature that I'm just like, you do that, and I'm like golden.
cool. No, that's good to hear because, we've been thinking about it, but getting that affirmed is really nice because if you could just like kind of take a video recording of like going through this space, you know, and be able to replay that, which would be a really easy feature to implement. That sounds like there'd be a lot of value there.
And like, I would go to the site, I could take a picture, input that, and then use this program as an overlay to it, so that their house is in this graphic representation. Then, after I get done selling them on this temporal quality, then I can come back. Now, let me show you what we're going to spend the money on, which has got to be big, what can be small, and then how that'll grow over the next 5 to 10 years, so that you can see the finished product. Because people, again, can't see that. So you're always constantly trying to balance the budget, and you're trying to balance, okay, this needs to be this big so I can have that visual impact right away, but these could be smaller, they're less expensive, you know, that sort of thing, as you try to balance it out.
And don't worry, they look little now, but this is how they're gonna
grow.
So you
right?
That's why you have the two timelines. You're like, okay, so it's small now, but then you see in 6 months they're going to be about this size, and then you have an
Okay,
alternative timeline for seasons. So once they're mature, then this is it throughout the year. But until then,
There's a lot of plants that have different needs, and some of them, if you plant them big, they're gonna really suck in 3 years. And if you
Oh, yeah.
start them small, and they need to develop a strong root system, have a big
And-
top, and other plants are a little more forgiving, and you can bring palm trees out.
So is it for landscape architects?
That was actually a thing I was going to mention. That's our goal for like kind of our end game goal. But we realize that the features will have to be rich enough for professional use, like at that time, which won't be ready by the time we're done here. So our MVP, our minimum viable product that we're focusing on now is kind of for the do-it-yourself segment, like suburban homeowners. Is there any way you can speak to the things that you just talked about, like those features? In relation to, like, you know, let's say that you're somebody doing it yourself, not talking to a landscape architect, or do you think those values wouldn't be valuable anymore?
Wait, hang on, real quick. That confuses me. Your ultimate goal is landscape architects, but you want to release it to homeowners before then.
Yeah, we want to be able
There's
to.
a million homeowners out there, and there's like 20 landscape architects, right?
But then again,
why
you-
shoot for landscape architects when you could have the gold mine of
Right.
homeowners?
Yeah, I could
But
see.
homeowners
tech
are
savvy.
dumb.
The
They don't know
homeowners,
how
who
to
cares?
not.
They buy apps.
They've got friends
Yeah.
tech savvy.
All right. Okay.
They can ask their grandkids to come in and help them use
Right, it'd be
this app.
smart to buy an app. I mean,
Well, it's not just landscape architect use. We're thinking about like implementing it at nurseries. Huh?
How do you buy it?
How do you find it?
Yeah.
Right. No,
But
but
like
the point is, like,
administrators-
landscape architects, in my opinion, and I know many of them. I sit there with presentations, and they do what you're talking about, but they do it with photos. This is when I did, and this is big. These are what they look like when the plants are mature. This is when they're small, and so on. What it seems to me, go for the homeowners, right? Go for the people out there, the random guy who's like, oh, I see this thing at the nursery. Is it going to be big or is it going to be small? Oh, you have an app here that tells you that. That's great.
Right, and I think that we're on the same page. Like, I'm just trying to say that once it gets refined enough and we have a marketplace there start to be more values in the app than just what it can offer the professional. You now have a marketplace of people that want to design their yard in a certain way that you can now maybe connect with the nurseries buying the plants through the app and maybe like connecting
Well,
with the
landscape architects
professional.
and nurseries.
So we think that like
Yeah.
we'll do both of them. It's not like we'll like
Well,
change.
nurseries too. I mean,
cut out
people don't
homeowners, you know, but
Garden
yeah.
Go for the biggest market possible.
Here's
So
the-
that's, I mean, that's
Yeah, that makes
Come
sense.
here
Are
to
you-
the counter and I'll
do
show
you
you
care
what
about
this is
making
gonna look
landscape
like in
architecture
6
better,
months
or do you
and
care
2
about
years and 5 years.
selling?
Okay, so here's the other way that the homeowner. Here's the other way that the homeowner can use that. They can have that app on their phone, and then they can go to the nursery or the garden center, right?
Yeah.
And they can drag the plants and arrange them for how they think they're going to look in their yard, and then they can hold the camera up to it and then make it do its thing. So
Yeah, I think that's great. Helping the random Joe know what his yard's going to look like
yeah, so he doesn't place it.
when he gets back from Home Depot and wants to plant his front yard.
Instead of waiting
Right.
3 years to find
What's
out
that?
that it's ugly.
Costco.
Or Costco, or wherever.
Is that not
wherever
crazy
he's
when
at.
they bring in those trees?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're just looking at redwoods.
Yeah.
It's, where are you going to plant that?
Yeah.
What yard is big enough to handle a redwood?
Somebody is planting a redwood 4 feet from their house as we speak.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. In 10 years from now, we're gonna
On
go.
the south side of their bay window, so they can see it, you know.
So, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It just seems like if going towards more and more technical, more and more applicable to professional people, it's the wrong
Might
way.
be losing the market, like the girth of. Well,
It's
but
shrinking.
why would those not be valid? I mean, this is a question I'm actually asking. It's not just for Torque, but like,
Yeah.
why would those features not be applicable for the homeowner as well? Like, there wouldn't. I feel like there's a lot of overlap between the two,
Right.
but we wouldn't really be interested in making all these like technical features that are really precise unless we were targeting this professional market that will pay kind of bigger bucks to have this like, you know, unique feature list maybe
Well,
that kind of overlaps with the homeowners, but maybe doesn't fully overlap. I don't know.
Right, and you're talking about a really expensive app.
No, it's not really expensive.
Not like.
Yeah,
not like
but
$100.
right, really expensive apps. You know, there are really expensive apps out there that are specifically designed for professional groups that really want that content.
Right.
And by really expensive meaning over $50, something like that. That is.
I can afford that.
Right, but
You're
there
making me nervous
there
when you
are
said expensive.
well, there are a million people out there who want to know what their plant is going to look like. If I buy an aloe, does it grow to be 20 feet tall,
Yeah.
right? And in the next 5 years, and here's what it looks like. You slide across there. You know,
But for the professional end of that, because then you're looking for enhancements. How can, for the professional, it be more? Taking into consideration soil, water,
Totally.
and shade.
Right, where it gets more into the database. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like if we have a big enough marketplace from the homeowner, like, customer segment, then we'll be more attractive to these big databases to want to like partner up with, or maybe like we'll license that information out from them. But once that data is there and we just input the soil types and stuff, it'd be a smoother process.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, if there's too much to go into that professional market, then maybe it's something that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So
I can sure see where it would be handy for professionals to come if they're walking around in somebody's brand new, you know, they just bought a tract home, we'll say. or whatever.
oh yeah, let me show you what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
Do you know what you ended up buying?
right, that kind of thing.
Because you could save people a lot of grief and time and trouble by giving them the right plants for the right place
Always.
and knowing the right soil type and the right time and all that. Because people, well, like I say, I'm experimenting with my yard. It's almost finished. It's pretty much filled in now, but there was a lot of stuff that we put in that worked wonderfully, and there was stuff that we put in that just, no matter how much water I tried to periodically it just wouldn't work. And we had a landscape designer, you know, but some of the stuff that she put in fact, it's do you know Noah and Laura out in Morro Bay? Noah's on the city council. He's a surfrider guy. Laura's a landscape.
No smuggler.
Well, Noah and Laura who did it, and they're very knowledgeable people, but nobody's perfect. And so some of the stuff that they put in didn't quite work for us. We're in a near-shore environment, 150 feet from the ocean in North Shell Beach, so it's a unique place. It's not saying.
Where's your current data coming from?
For the plants?
No, I'm
For sure.
Next
Can I
meeting.
show you something real quick?
For
You can answer
for the
that one.
plants?
Yeah.
David's just done research for the general information basically on the plant. So like even the heights and stuff like that, it's based on averages. So I mean, it's not obviously every plant grows differently. So it's not a specific two scale thing. But for the plant information that he got, he has done research on from a bunch of different sites and got I guess the mean of everything, and that's what the plant growth is based on. The sun, if you click the plant, it gives you sun and water ratio, what it needs. So all that is just based on information that's already out there.
No doubt. There's nothing new, no new information here. I understand that.
Yeah.
If I were you, if you created an app that answered the question for people, how big is my plant going to get?
You think that's the ticket right there?
I think that's the ticket. I really think that how big is my plant going to get? There's tons of information out there that tell you that, but people are morons. They don't want to look in a book. They don't want to even Google it, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. How big is my plant gonna
I
get?
also feel like it's important that all that information can be contained in like one app, right? So you know that regardless of what plant you're looking for, you're gonna have consistent information throughout the app. So like you'll know exactly how much to water, or you know exactly how big it's gonna get in that setting. And you don't have to like, you know, go to like gardening.com and then like Sunset Magazine or whatever. You don't have to like check a bunch of like that's really helpful. And I think that you can't like, it's too ambitious to try to please, you know, stay-at-home moms and also like the casual like gardener and also professional landscapers. Like you need to pick someone and focus on their needs, because those, like the person you're marketing towards will absolutely dictate the features you include. You know, like a stay-at-home mom is going to use half the stuff that a professional, you know, landscaper needs, and vice versa. They don't need anything that the stay-at-home mom needs. You know?
So for the do-it-yourselfer, what features do you think should be implemented? I mean,
what do you
How
know?
is soil
like soil type,
at very
or
basic
not too
how
much?
the
That-
Do-it-yourselfers just want to know. They want to know how to grow the plant. They want to know what it's going to become and how to grow it. That's pretty much it, right? And so if you were able to do that, and you guys could spend a lot more effort to put in a lot more time and a lot more energy and go for a much smaller market, which is landscape architects, who most of them won't implement this anyway,
for gardening centers.
or whatever, professionals in some way. Do-it-yourselfers, stay-at-home moms, whatever you're calling them, right? They have bought a plant that they like, they have no idea what it's going to become or how to take care of it, and some kind of information in an easy context for them.
If I were, so I don't garden at all, right?
Yeah.
And if I were to go to like Miners, whatever, and buy a plant,
Yeah.
so it comes in a pot. I go to my house. I have a dirt yard, right? But like, what do I need to know to put that plant in there and make it grow, right? And so like, is soil a consideration? I don't know. You know, like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Are you in sand? Are you in clay?
Yeah,
Are
okay,
you
but
in
my point is that like,
sandstone?
as a person who doesn't know anything about this, that's the information that I would need. And then I would need information about how often to water it, and probably like what sort of conditions it should ideally be in, like if it should be in a sunny spot or a shady spot or whatever, right? But like, I don't need tons of information, I just need enough to make sure that my plant doesn't die. So like, whatever information that is, I think is what you should focus on. Because like for me, I wanted to Miners right now and bought a plant, I have no idea what to do with it.
Right.
You know?
You're
They'll
talking
give you
about
instructions with the plant.
You're talking about an accessible database of horticultural information. Is what that is.
Or like the simple, just broken down.
But yeah, with
Okay.
and just a focus on a particular user's needs. Because I mean that information's out there.
Will they check themselves out?
It's a mirror.
They do it all.
Yeah.
It's funny to see that some people will actually stop and
Stop and check it.
start doing it.
We got a one-way mirror.
Oh, is this mirrored on the
Yeah,
outside?
yeah.
I was
It's
wondering
nice.
why she was that. I thought she was.
She wasn't looking at you.
Just show up.
Yeah.
She got excited when she saw me.
So for some of the features, I just kind of want to say where we're going and kind of get feedback on that. So one of the things we want to switch to is markerless. Do you think
I can show you a demo. Of
Marker less.
markerless? So instead of having this out in your backyard,
Yeah.
it would be you go out there and there's none of these markers to bring it up. It would just be a drag and drop system. So right now it's based on the app reads all the points on here and sees it as this plant. What we're trying to do is be able to go in your backyard, not have anything laid out. It would read your backyard where it is, and then you would, from the drop down menu,
You
whatever,
select an
and
elevator,
just drag
you
it out
set it
there,
there,
yeah.
and then
That's
and then-
mostly true. You still need a point of reference so that the device can map out where your like terrain is basically. So using something called SLAM. I won't go into the technical side, but it makes it so you can like map it for an environment based on the interest points. So if you have a slope going up or something, it can actually like track that that's the ground plane. I can show you real quick if you guys want to see it, and I can bring it around somewhere else too. But basically, this is like a really rough, just a kind of proof of concept that it can be done right now. So once this is tracked, you can actually go out and not not have to have this in the view. Right now we do because we haven't coded it far enough. And I had buttons down here that like brought these plants into perspective, right? But then once it knows where the ground is, it can track along the ground plane, and then you can move it, wherever you want.
And move plants around.
Yeah, so you could have a library and then just drag them out, and it'll actually like attach to the ground plane. I don't know if you could see that, but anyway, it just means that
it makes sense.
cool. Instead of like it having to be those images like it is now, you just need one point of reference. It can be any household object, and then it maps it out.
Oh, I think you gotta go away from those pretty quickly.
Go away from them?
Where you want people to go lay out cards in their yard.
No, see, yeah, that's what we're trying to
But
get.
you're trying
Yeah.
to assume like these people, like if they're trying to find an app, they're not going to be super tech savvy. If they're not going to Google something and they'd rather an easy app. And especially if you think gardeners, they like working with their hands. Like, I don't know about you, but I would like to see a visual, like, okay, this is what I'm thinking of. What if I had it here? What if I switched it? And like that way I'm kind of in my garden, and then I look at it through time. And I'm like, okay, wait, no, maybe I'll switch this around. And I'll have this here.
Wait, with actual cards?
I feel like
Where would those come from?
you print
Print
out
them.
images.
We have to-
and
Like
then-
right now, it's like linked like through the app.
In a way, you're defeating the purpose of having an electronic digital
Wait,
application.
I just want to, let's play this out, right? Somebody gets an app, and they're like, all right, wait, I get it. Okay, so this thing, now it's telling me to print out something like a color printer.
Bunch of paper.
I'll go to Kinko's and do that, right? Or because I don't have a color printer. You're assuming people have color
Do they have to
printer.
be color?
Wait,
Is it just the
how many people in this room own a color printer?
I do, it's always out of toner.
2, 3. So what? It was
Yeah, but I hate the
70%.
like $30.
What's that?
I've come to hate like color printers.
Yeah. Why?
I go to Kinko's a lot.
No, I think it's definitely important
always
that
out of
there's
toner.
no physical markers at all.
Right, no
Um,
dependency.
I've never used an app that I had to like,
Have an external.
yeah, or like.
Have another
So you have to go
Like,
deal with some
they-
props, get the props set up, and then you use your app.
Definitely. Okay, well, here's kind of the middle ground. I'm sorry that I interrupted. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's just a barrier to entry. You want to eliminate as many barriers as possible. Like making an account is a barrier to entry. Having like an unpleasant first experience is a huge barrier to entry.
Totally.
We need to just get people in this app and say, get out in your garden and just look at some stuff right now.
Yeah,
you don't want
get out right now. Like, do it right after you download it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I asked.
Or if they have a bear yard, then they should be able to go out there and have on the app a list of plants that might be appropriate for their area. An example, when the north end of Shell Beach, which is Pismo Beach, it's rocky clay soil. When you get down towards the downtown Pismo area, it changes to pure sand. And it's that way all the way from there through Grove City and Oceano. It's that way for the next, all the way out to Omo Mesa. It's that way for many, many miles, 10, 15 miles. It's just sand. And what grows in that sandy soil is often a lot different than what will grow just from the heart of Pismo to the northern city limits, which is about 3 miles.
I don't think that
Please.
matters, though.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to pick plants that are no good for
Oh
your
no, that's about horticulture. You got. I mean, it seems like it's
Yeah, we can do that. It'll just be. I'm sorry. It'll just be like something that you could choose in the app.
Well,
Like,
isn't there a GPS function that can
Yeah.
tell you what soil type you're dealing with by where you're standing?
yeah, and I think that's something that we can
relative
do
accuracy. When it's not,
Yeah.
it's not going to know if you're in like a rough patch.
No, well, as long as it's relatively accurate. But like you say, there's really a difference. I have a bunch of Hearst ceanothus, that low flat ground cover in my yard. I'm trying to talk to the city of Pismo. We're planting along the bluffs there, along with Santa Rosa, or I think Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz on the buckwheat and stuff, because it's low and it grows well, and it's right. I was looking through the Wikipedia thing, and lo and behold, Hearst ceanothus does not like sandy soil at all. I'm having great luck with it, and I'm trying to, I was recommending it erroneously, as it turns out, because you go down to Pismo State Park and plant it. It's probably
He's not in your market, by the way. You realize that, right? You guys realize that he is more knowledgeable than the people who you want to be buying this.
yeah, that's true. We do know.
Right,
We try to kind of.
People have like a 2-minute
That's
thing with
right.
an app, and then they dump it, right? If it's
Yeah.
not instantly useful in some way to them, right?
It has to be
Very
extremely quick.
Okay, so on the marker versus marker list, kind of like general gist would be that that's something that is required. Like you don't want to have to print it out, obviously, and I get that. One of the middle grounds is that you can, if need be, like what Danny was saying, you can just like grab a bunch of sticky notes or something and put them in your yard, and once it recognizes one, it'll recognize all of them, so you don't even have to print anything.
Mhm.
So it could be like any object, as long as the camera can recognize that it's being repeated.
I would just
So
say
that is
also
possible, but you don't need to do that. You
Yeah.
can still drag around too.
have a library where it's very visual, because I could just picture it being like just a list of names and like types, and people will be like, I need to see this. So like have it easier to be able to access instead of like back tracing into like the huge main library and then like going back in, you know, like trying to memorize the names. Have like an easy access from like, this is what I'm looking at with my garden, and then like a library that shows more images clearly
Sure.
of the plants.
Why can't you, or you could maybe, I don't know. What about taking a picture of the front of your house? Now that becomes a static background and you pull plants onto it.
It's already
Watch
been
it
done.
grow over it.
But what benefit does this have over that?
The main thing is that it's 360 degrees of perspective. So it's like, no matter what, once those plants are locked into place, you can actually experience the
walk around
garden. Yeah, it's like, you know, there's a disconnect between just seeing a picture and driving plants in, because that's just one perspective, or maybe a couple. But this is like you're
Do those
actually
plants grow though? I
These
can
ones?
you change them over time?
Oh, and like the
And the ones that currently
traditional ones, they scale. Like there's one that's out, but it's mainly for landscape architects, like Landscape Pro 2013 or something. And it has that function where you just pull in images and it'll like make it seem like it's putting it into 3D, but it's just a 2D
Because
image.
what your professor was explaining, you could do in you could just do in Photoshop,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Which like I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to point out the fact that like this doesn't accomplish what he was talking about.
Right, and I think that there could be some transition there though, like if this was able to kind of have both functions, where you could be on the site and you could be in this meeting place with a client or something. It depends. And he's also speaking to what's done now, because that's how it's traditionally done. Like not like we're going to try to change the whole game, but if there's some more efficient way to do it, then you know the game can change.
Better mousetrap.
Just change the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
The world beats a path to your door, they say. You build a better mousetrap.
So
It sounds
one,
like you guys are really on to something here, but you really.
we're really trying to get
Right.
features so that when, instead of building stuff that no one needs, build stuff so that they can use it and we don't have to waste time building other
I
stuff.
can
So
see where a lot of people could use it, because if you go to, for instance, garden centers, you'll meet people that will sell you anything and haven't got any knowledge really at all about what is right and wrong for you, don't have brains or knowledge or don't care to ask you where you live. But I remember dealing with the California Department of Forestry Tree Center up in Magalia, and those guys, Ranger Darby and the other people that worked in there, sadly, that was completely shut down for lack of $3 million in the budget.
Hey, Lionel, sorry, we got to wrap up in like 10 minutes.
But they would quiz you. Where do you live? And of course, they probably were on a computer looking at what kind of soil do you have? And because they didn't want you, even though the plants were dirt cheap and you could buy, they'd sell 600,000 plants a year for 50 cents to $1 a piece.
The questions you
didn't
guys
want
have
you to
Okay.
we wrap
make a
up.
mistake. They didn't want you to have
procedural
screwed up
growth
plants.
versus
Right.
scaling. So right now, the plants are based on a scaling mechanism, so it's the same picture, just scaled larger.
Yes.
One of the things we want to do, or we're working on, if it's a feature or not, is the procedural from the sprout coming out, blooming, blossoming.
Yeah.
Would that be a feature you think we should implement? Do
I think
people
that's
want to see
excellent.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the marker list and the procedural are just going to be very time intensive. So we want to make sure
You're going down.
we're going down the right path before we do all this work, and people will be like, "Oh, I don't." It
Well,
could have
well,
just been
yeah.
scaled.
And if
If
people are
you-
trying to see growth, they're gonna want to see how it is when it's little, and like how far along will it be before it actually starts looking like you expect it to look.
Okay.
People want to know what a plant looks like in flower
Mhm.
and what it looks like
Yeah.
in fruit. And many times when you get a plant in a 1 gallon pot, that's how people buy plants at Home Depot and so on. It's not in flower. It's not in fruit. And if you could answer that question with this thing.
Okay.
How long does it take until it's going to come into flower? What does it look like when it comes into flower? Oh, I just drag this thing across and it'll show us that.
Okay, cool.
That is a nice thing, and that may, those scalable landscape architect programs that you're talking about that exist already out there. It takes a green blob, and the green blob gets bigger.
Exactly.
And the green blob gets
Yeah.
bigger.
Mhm.
Right? It's not a real feature answering the question.
What's it actually going to look
What's
like?
it look like in
Yeah.
the flower? What's it look like in
Right.
it makes fruit?
And I think that's a big deal too, especially with the trees, because as is, you look at that blue elderberry, and it just, the 6-month version just looks like a mini
little tree,
miniature
yeah.
tree. I just really quickly wanted to go over, we have like the main features we've been hashing out, and we have some sort of organization on like what's most important ourselves, what we'd like to hear from you guys, are that, you know, we have realistic growth versus a scaling growth, which we were just talking about. Seasonal variance, being able to, you know, choose your season and grow it in that different, you know, look for that plant or, you know, the whole
What's it
landscape.
gonna look like in the spring? What's it gonna
Yeah.
look like in the fall?
And then climate-induced growth, which is all about, you know, you're in the sunset garden zone or something, you know, don't choose plants that are just going to die really easily, or like you have aerosol problems or salt sprays or something, don't plant these plants. Two little things for this is that it can actually be like it can actually change what plants you can drag into the scene, or you could just tap those plants and it might say like information about it, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah,
we could just like
yeah.
list information in the dialog box, or it could actually be like robust and based on what you choose, you can only drag certain plants out or something.
It'd be cool to have like a recommended plants. People don't know what they're doing. It's like, oh, these are your 4 best options. Like these will for sure
Okay.
grow in your house.
For sure.
One barrier you're really going to have a difficulty at overcoming is the wide variety of plants that are out there,
Yeah.
and which ones to put in in the
Right.
app, right?
Also,
Okay.
building walls for all.
Good thing. Well, yeah, I can address that in a second. Do you want to hear what kind of how we're thinking about doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. We're testing a couple things right now. We're buying some prime sense sensors, which are like the Kinect sensors for your Xbox that can you can actually track your movements. But they have programs for that where you can actually model 3D objects, and it'll just instantly model it for you. You just let's say I put this banana here and I go around with the Kinect, it'll generate a 3D model of that, right? And it's actually editable. It's not just one big object. You can actually edit it. So if nurseries were able to do this, or we could go to nurseries and take their stocks and be able to get an immature plant of that size, maybe one size later that we know that age of, and interpolate the rest, then scaling would just become hey, what nurseries want to do this? If down the road we could have it to where we can have all of them scanning all their plants with the Kinect, telling us what plants they have, hooking it up through the app so people can buy through them, and so it's kind of based on what plants they model will result in what money they make through the app.
Yeah.
It's a thought. I mean, that's kind of down the road. But right now we're working on a script that goes under every plant, and it's like a fractal script where it'll just procedurally make any type of plant, and you just put in this kind of thickness, this kind of length, and then it'll just grow, and then you apply the materials. I'm more on the tech side, so maybe it's bad to talk about.
based on some kind of attribute the plant has.
Right. So woody broadleaf evergreen shrubs would have a certain kind of
Yeah.
governing script, and then
Right.
annuals would have a different one, and then you just put the materials on the leaves, and then it's a new plant. You save that, and then you work on another one.
Okay.
So it's possible. The workflow would allow us to scale, but we're still working that out.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting challenge, because especially in California, there are many tens of thousands of plants that if you added up all the nurseries and all the things that people plant in their yards,
Yeah.
many tens of thousands.
And soil types and climate types that you can, I remember the map I saw in Morro Bay, these guys no longer Morro Bay, old geezers that had time to do it, probably retired Bob guys.
Mhm.
And they put weather stations and they made this climate zone and soil map, which was a wonderful thing, but it was amazing in Morro Bay, they had a banana belt on the south side of that hill. That's where Shasta goes over the hill, literally between the golf course. And I don't know, you couldn't get bananas to fruit, but you could grow the dang things without them dying.
Yeah.
And of course, on the north side of town, they had all different, down close to the shore, they had sandy soil and the near shore environment, up in the hills,
Yeah.
clay soil and hot, west facing slopes. It was just in Morro Bay, it was about 40 different particular climate zones you can see.
So we gotta end in
I gotta go.
Sure.
So that's great. I do run a database called Selectree, which is
Selectree.
yeah, It's the
The T is shared.
what's that?
Is the T shared?
Is it, say it again? Yeah. The T is shared.
Is it TRE?
TREE. Yeah.
Oh, select tree.
Yeah. Select tree. It's yeah. It's the second most visited tree website in the world after no, the Arbor Foundation, and the reason why is because it's a massive attribute selection database. It's got 2,000 trees in it. You can say, I want a tree that doesn't ever grow more than 20 foot tall, flowers red this time of year, and it spits out a list of those.
Really good filtering system, like.
Yeah. Originally it got developed by PG&E about 15 years ago, and then they sent it to us a couple, and we got a bunch of grants to run it. But that thing it got a huge database behind it, and if you wanted access to that data, we'd give it to you. It's fine, and that has all kinds of plans. Go ahead, it'll come up as your first hit on Google for that, and play around with the attribute selection type of thing, and there's things like climate zone are in there, nativity, not, and that kind of thing are in there, and so
that sounds amazing. I mean, that's what we're
you need attributes, right? If you're planning on you sitting there and plugging in attributes of 1,000 plants,
No, I know.
right? Your 5 weeks is done just like that of working on trying to do that. So if you wanted to release this thing and actually have some plants in it, you gotta have some way to get the plants that people are buying first, right? So your thing is actually in the app. Their thing is in the app, right?
And this is in public domain?
Yeah, it's a couple thing, yeah.
Is it sort of growing and self-editing, kind of like
All the time, yeah.
People are putting in information and people are editing.
Well, we curate it. People don't know shit,
Well, some people do though. There is that one person that will call you up or go online and say, you said this.
But if you want some quality, you got to.
The truth of the matter is,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, check it out. And
your hair looks good. Your hair looks beautiful.